Hey everyone, it's Sammy from Push Square, and the PlayStation Store recently celebrated its 10th anniversary in both North America and Europe. The Virtual Plaza launched alongside the PlayStation 3 in both territories, and has expanded to a variety of different Sony manufactured products, including obviously the PSP, PS Vita and PS4, as well as other discontinued devices like the Sony Tablet S and the ill-fated Xperia Play. Rest in peace. While archive footage has obviously been lost to the talons of time, I thought it might be quite fun to look back at how the PlayStation Store has evolved over the past decade, as it's gone through some pretty seismic changes over the years. So it all started in 2006 with what was essentially a web page that you accessed via the PS3's built-in web browser. The HTML-based storefront was slow, cumbersome and honestly kinda crap, but it did help build the foundation for the more rounded product that we're all familiar with today. At launch in North America, there were a total of 2 games available for the PS3's PlayStation Store. Blast Factor, a kind of biological shoot-'em-up created by remaster specialist Bluepoint in collaboration with Sony Santa Monica, and Cash Gun's Chaos DLX, a kind of Smash TV rip-off developed by the then Sony Online Entertainment that no one remembers. Seriously, did anyone even play this game? The launch lineup was a bit better in Europe, where the PS3 was infamously delayed by 6 months. The extra time enabled Sony to assemble a much better selection of games, where the excellent Tekken 5 Dark Resurrection and Gran Turismo HD Concept were the headline names. And yes, Gran Turismo HD Concept was a free demo that provided a taste of Gran Turismo 5 Prologue, itself a demo for Gran Turismo 5. Sony was pretty weird back then. Interestingly, hidden within that European PlayStation Store launch lineup was Flow, the first game from that game company, who would go on to release the seminal Journey several years later. And the PlayStation Store kinda bubbled along for a little while in its HTML-based format. Sony added in background downloads to the PS3 firmware, which allowed you to pull content while watching movies or playing offline games, but it wasn't until 2008 that it went through its biggest change. So on 15th of April 2008, Sony launched a new firmware update for the PS3 which removed the web-based iteration of the PlayStation Store and built it into the console's operating system. It was a huge step forward, loading light years faster than its predecessor and being much easier to navigate in general. It also expanded to the PlayStation Portable later that year, and there was compatibility between the two units, as you were able to download PSP content on the PS3 and then copy it across to the handheld via USB. And despite some minor tweaks and enhancements, it's pretty much the way the PlayStation Store stayed for the majority of the PS3's lifespan. PlayStation Plus launched as an optional subscription service in the summer of 2010, providing members with a selection of free monthly games, add-ons and trials, and it would later go on to become the backbone for the PlayStation 4's online infrastructure. But it was in 2012 that the biggest change came. So a year after the PSN outage and shortly after the launch of a custom PlayStation Store for the PS Vita, Sony announced that it was completely overhauling the PlayStation Store's PS3 design. We now know that this was done in anticipation of the PS4, but it seemed somewhat random at the time. The new layout was billed as being much more visual. Screenshots, trailers and other items were all added under the umbrella of a single game page. Smart Search was also integrated, and the whole thing was supposed to be much more visual as a whole. But the problem was that the PS3 couldn't really cope with it, so the layout launched on 22nd of October 2012 in Europe, and it was supposed to follow soon after in North America. But it broke, pretty badly actually. Due to a variety of bugs and glitches, Sony was forced to actually roll back to the old storefront in the UK while it fixed the problems, and it ultimately didn't launch in the US until 2nd of November 2012. And even then it was considered a big step backward because it wasn't hard-coded into the OS like the previous version of the PS3 PlayStation Store. It took an age to load and needed to be patched independently. Moreover, it never felt like the PS3 could properly cope with what it was trying to do, and even if you visit the PS3's PlayStation Store today, you'll find choppy performance and a ton of bugs. But of course it all paved the way for the PS4, which we now know the redesign was created for. Sony added some bells and whistles for its new console, including preloading, which rolled out around 6 months after the console itself. This basically allows you to pre-order digital games and download them to your hard drive prior to their launch, meaning that they're ready to go the instant that their release day arrives. And that's pretty much where we're at today. Slight design changes have been made to the PS4's PlayStation Store, but it still pretty closely resembles that 2012 redesign on the PS3. And I don't know about you, but it makes me wonder, what's next for the PlayStation Store? Digital is now such an enormous part of Sony's gaming business that it must be a question that floats around in boardrooms a lot these days. And the only thing that's certain from where I'm sitting is that the digital storefront is only going to get more important as consumers slowly migrate from physical purchases to the impending digital future. And that means PlayStation Store is going to need to stay at the top of its game. Hopefully I'll be able to revisit this video in a decade and talk about another 10 years worth of evolution, but until then please let me know all about your history with the PlayStation Store in the comments section below, and thank you so much as always for watching.